Hi guys, so this is my last recording for my evaluation, and I just wanted to give you a reminder that my evaluation was on let me see if I can make this more readable. The first trimester I was working on project-based learning, and I was learning about what it's like to have an ongoing project that's meaningful in the classroom and what good project-based learning actually looks like. And in fact, project-based learning is really hard, and it involves a lot of time and energy, and the fact that you need a real audience and you need to be doing something that seems meaningful, not just for a grade. And then I looked at homework, and I tried to look at how homework plays a part in project-based learning and how I can make homework meaningful in project-based learning, and then it doesn't seem like busy work, but assignments again are meaningful towards the project, and so students feel like they're actually doing something important when they're doing something at home that's going to benefit the project. So this trimester I am looking at backwards design, meaning that I wanted to create classes in which I knew what the final was going to be on the very first day of school. So for my Middle Eastern class, I really wanted to focus on the theme of the clash of the monotheistic. So I took the first 2 weeks of school and taught all about the monotheistic religions of the Middle East, and then I looked at a case study of Jerusalem and some things that are happening in Jerusalem. And then I ended up doing a project which they have to do ignite presentations on different clashes of the monotheistic religions around the world. So building the mosque at Ground Zero, Draw Muhammad Day, issues in Syria, issues in Israel, tons of different stuff. And again, they're ignite presentations. They have to do ignite presentations for this backwards design. There's a different Ignite presentation every day right now that's going on about a different clash around the world, and they're fantastic. The Ignite presentations, I'll never go back. Ignite presentations are thebomb.com. I never knew presentations could be so good from students, so I'm going to keep doing that. And then after they give those Ignite presentations on the clash of the monotheistics, the light blue is anything having to do with that final, with the project-based learning. And again, the very first few weeks of school, we're all learning about the clashes. Here's a week we just spent completely on the clashes and the project, the Ignite presentations, and then for the final, what they're going to be doing is coming up with resolutions for those finals, and they're going to be debating resolutions. They're going to be coming up with resolutions for the clashes and debating those resolutions for the final. For my economic class, probably will just skip this, but I did do backwards design, and if you're curious, I would love to share with you, and it's going really, really well, and I'm really happy with it. And oh my gosh, yeah, I totally want to talk about it right now, but I'm going to stop because my case study that I want to share with you guys is in my Africa class. So in my Africa class, I knew what I wanted them to do for the final, which is resolve modern conflicts of Africa. But I also wanted students to figure out why those conflicts even began in the first place. So I started off the trimester without having a plan at all. I just said, you're going to do backwards design, which means you were going to do the project in the very first 2 weeks of school, which was kind of weird. So they ended up having to do a poster project. The posters ended up looking like this, and they're awesome. And they had to present the State of the Union of their country. So they had to research all about their country, find what the ethnic group, the religious group, the exports, the imports, and come up with a thesis statement to say the State of the Union of my country is this, and present those. Now that I've done Ignite presentations in my Middle East class, I wish I had done Ignite presentations for these, but that's okay. So the presentations weren't that great, but they can be next year. But the content was fabulous. And so what I ended up doing with that is that they were taking notes throughout the presentations on Friday, and also I gave mini presentations the day before they would research the ancient empires, the ethnic groups, the religious groups, economics, government, yada, yada, yada. And they took notes on a document that looks like this, so they could start making connections. So then when they gave the presentations to each other, they had to do an online discussion that Friday over spring break. And the online discussion was basically you were planning this unit. So look at patterns that you saw, trends that you saw, and all of the State of the Unions that were presented during the presentation time. And their conversation was fantastic. So you can't really read them here, but the gist of the conversation was that they saw these trends in all of Africa, not just their own country, that there's civil war, there's a little bit of corruption in government, not a little bit, but maybe a lot of it. There's poverty, economic instability. And so from that I said, okay, you guys choose the units. If your final is for you to be able to figure out why Africa got to where it is, what do you need to learn? And I think that's a question I would not pose next year. What I came to find out was that in the end, I actually do know what they need to learn. They actually don't know what they need to learn. I think this was beneficial in the conversation, but I don't think having them choose the units were beneficial. I think, again, I knew probably more than they did about what units they should be doing. But it wasn't that big of a deal. I just basically said, here's what we're going to be learning based on your conversations, but this is what I would have chosen anyways. Nonetheless, the conversation was fabulous, and they had a sense of what the state of Africa was before the trimester even began. And so they had to do the State of the Union, and then I'm doing case studies. So the complexity of colonialism, reclaiming Africa, and the battle for self-identity, case studies being the Congo, South Africa, and Rwanda. Meanwhile, I'm weaving through the project-based learning of the State of their Union. So there is a second part, and the second part is where I'm at right now currently with this class. And what they have to do is chart the social stability of their country on this class chart in the classroom, and it's going super well. So they have social stability on the side, 1800s, 1850s, 1900s, 1950s, and 2000s at the bottom here. And you can see each student had to do research and had to analyze if something in the timeline was stable or not. And as you can see, it's pretty stable. When we get to around colonialism, it's not so stable. Although it's stable for some people and not for others. Anywho, we see this trend that goes way up here, and then all of these tippy top points are about 1960. They should have probably all had overlaid their dots on this chart, but they didn't. But we can see there's a huge trend in stability in 1960s when African countries became independent, and then we see completely downward, and then just a very much of a back and forth with social stability being low and then high and then low and then high. And I think that is significant, and the students are seeing that is significant. So they have an in-class essay write where they have to write about the social stability of Africa and the trends that they see. And then the third part of this project-based learning, and of course, this is the backwards design. So what I really wanted them to be able to do is to be able to resolve these issues. So for the last few weeks, this light blue is all about the State of the Union. So when you see the light blue on the calendar, that's about their own personal individual country. So for the final, they are going to come, and actually it's going to look like a lot like the United Nations mock simulations. They're going to come dressed as ambassadors of their country and try to resolve some of these issues, knowing where Africa has been and the patterns of the past. So I'm very, very excited about this. I think it's a cool way to end the year. Again, focusing this trimester, Heaton and I are focusing on presentations and class dialogue. And the other really cool thing is that as we've been doing the case studies, South Africa, Rwanda, and Congo, we've been looking one day for each of those case studies at how the country has tried to solve these problems, and they're creating a list on the board here of different ways people have resolved it, so that way when they go to do their resolutions for the final, they have something to choose from. And I think that has to do with backwards design too, is that backwards design is really cool because you always have a sense of, you know where you're going, and you can explain to kids while they're doing something. Like, you're going to be using, it's not just busy work, and the homework just isn't busy work, all leading up towards something. So I've really enjoyed learning about project-based learning, how homework plays a part in that, and how to backwards design projects so that you have a direction for the class and a direction for the project. Thank you for being on my team, and you guys are amazing. Bye.